doing so well with the technology. But so we're going to look at Gethsemane, and the theme is like, how am I going to get through this? And we've already heard a bit from Simon Thomas about that. And just to remind you, when we talk about this stuff, there are no stupid questions, no stupid first impressions, and no stupid feelings. Like, I think particularly when we're thinking about this, it's really important that we can be honest and that we hear each other and we have space to do that. And so I don't know how familiar you are with where we're at in the Jesus story, but just to remind you, the couple of bits before this that we've looked at over the last 2 Thursdays, but it doesn't matter if you were here or not. So we previously, Jesus gets soaked in perfume. Jesus ate dinner with his friends. And those things kind of, I don't know, getting soaked in perfume, that was a couple of weeks ago. We don't need to get into that. But in amongst all of that, there's scheming. There's the waste of this perfume. There's worship within that. There's betrayal. And within that, Jesus is doing something new. So that is kind of a bit of what's going on. And so let's read, so it's page 38 in our Mark books. As I always say, like, if you want to write in this, if there's something that stands out for you and you want to make a note of it, please take one of these, take it home with you. It's yours, so do what you want with it. But so this is Mark chapter 14, verses 32 to 42, and in this we see Jesus at his most vulnerable. So this is what it says. They went to a place called Gethsemane, and Jesus said to his disciples, "Sit here while I pray." He took Peter, James and John along with him, and he began to be deeply distressed and was troubled. "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death," he said to them. "Stay here and keep watch." Going a little farther, he fell to the ground and prayed that if possible the hour might pass from him. "Abba, Father," he said, "everything is possible for you. Take this cup from me. Yet not what I will, but what you will." Then he returned to his disciples and found them sleeping. "Simon," he said to Peter, "are you asleep? Couldn't you keep watch for 1 hour? Watch and pray so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak." Once more he went away and prayed the same thing. When he came back, he again found them sleeping because their eyes were heavy. They did not know what to say to him. Returning the third time, he said to them, "Are you still sleeping and resting? Enough. The hour has come. Look, the Son of Man is delivered into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us go. Here comes my betrayer." So I'm just going to quickly point out a couple of things within this, then it's over to you. Got some questions, some things for you. Got some questions that aren't. Anyway, we'll cross that when we come to it. But first of all, the place. I don't know if you know what the word Gethsemane means, but it means the oil press. And so this was a place that Jesus went to regularly. It was a familiar place. It was a safe space for Jesus, also called the Mount of Olives. But in this place, olives were crushed to make oil. That is how you make olive oil. They go into a press, squeezed, and the oil comes out of them. So that is actually happening in this place. When Jesus and his friends were there are big oil presses, and I don't know how big they are, but all around him. So this place would have had those literal sights and smells of crushed olives. And in this place, Jesus is being crushed emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically. So the place, a really good thing to kind of have a think about as we look at this. And so the second thing is about people. And there's something in this that we see in Jesus of being vulnerable with your closest friends. Like he went to Gethsemane, to this place, with his disciples, and then he took 3 of them, Peter, James and John, with him, like his closest friends. And sometimes when life is hard, it's easy to, or tempting, to isolate ourselves from people. But yeah, we see in Jesus that he surrounds himself, not with everyone, not baring his soul to all the people, all of his friends, but his 3 closest friends. And I think there's some really good wisdom in that. I think there's also a challenge of when we're vulnerable, is that we don't know, or we can't control how people react. So in what we've just read, Jesus has invited his closest friends into a really, really vulnerable place. He said to them, like, my soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Like, can you imagine, Jesus saying that to you? And so he's opened himself up. He's not putting filters on. He's not hiding how he's feeling and what's happening. He's inviting his friends in, and what do? They fall asleep. I don't know, I just really wonder how Jesus felt like when that first time when he came back and his 3 best mates are fast asleep. Like, he's asked them, stay here and keep watch. Saying, I need you to have my back. And they're fast asleep. And so there's, for me, a tension that I think identify with in that being vulnerable is something that I want to do and be and model, particularly as a leader. But when you're vulnerable, you can't control how people respond to that, and you might bare your soul and find your friends asleep. But anyway, you can talk about that. And the last thing is prayer. What a treat that all these 3 things begin with the letter P. Let's notice that. But within this story that we've read, there's a lot of prayer. If you have a look through it, the word prayer is mentioned 4 or 5 times there. And I think when you get to have a chat in a minute, just ask yourself, what does it look like? What does prayer sound like? What does it feel like? Jesus prays, and he encourages his friends to pray. And that we just I think if you kind of get yourself into this, you can feel and hear the distress, the overwhelm, the sorrow and the anguish. And there's a bit in Luke, the same story, but Luke's version of it. And it says about Jesus praying, and being in anguish, he prayed more earnestly, and his sweat was like drops of blood falling to the ground. And I think I've always thought that was just a bit of a metaphor, or a picture, but apparently this is a sciencey thing where, when your physical body is under that amount of stress, that blood vessels in Jesus' head in this case, can break. So, this is the amount of distress that Jesus is under, and in that he's praying. He's gone to this place with the purpose to pray. And I don't know, we like a story with a happy ending, don't we? And so, Jesus, who's feeling all this pain and hurt, and he's gone to this specific place to pray. He's taken his friends, and he's worked through the not my will, your will thing with God. And then here comes my betrayer. That's how this bit of the story ends. It's just so real, isn't it? I find it mind-blowing. When we have been looking at these stories of Jesus, and we kind of dig a little bit deeper, or take a little bit more time over it, and just the depth within these stories, and what Jesus being vulnerable in inviting us into this moment. We get to be a part of it, to see Jesus, to hear what he's saying, and to be a part of it. I think it's mind-blowing to me. Anyway, so enough from me. No, we can't get the questions. Right, I'm going to read some questions, but you're grown-ups, you can talk about whatever you want. But I'm going to throw out a few things. So, as always, when we look at bits of the Bible, it's a good question of what did you find helpful? What was interesting? What challenged you about Jesus and the story? And maybe ask that as well and think about Simon Thomas and his story as well. Another question, Jesus shares with his friends that he's overwhelmed and he asks them to look out for him. What are the obstacles you face in being honest with other people closest to you? What happens for you when you're feeling overwhelmed or upset? Have you experienced God being with you when life is hard? What might this look like? And the last thing that you can talk about, is it possible for you to be honest, whatever that looks like, with God? And I think with that one, when Simon Thomas was sharing about how he fell to his knees and just shouted no in a way that rebounded off the houses around him, and his friends picked him up. That kind of raw honesty with God is amazing. But how does that work for you? What do you think about that as a concept? So is that okay? Have a chat about the video we watched, Jesus. So we talked about the place, people and prayer, but have a chat about whatever you want. Sorry, don't have the questions. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Cool. Have a chat and then we'll come back together, ask if you want to share anything, and then we'll have a bit of time to reflect. Thank you.